What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Universal Crystals. Today we've got a very special guest, someone that I've been wanting to have on the channel for a while. I've learned a lot from his videos personally, and I think that, with the way he's growing on YouTube right now, he will become a household name in the spiritual community. So today we have David from Lightways. You can go check him out on YouTube. Instagram, I'm not sure the exact at, but I'm sure he can tell you that. But if you just want to introduce yourself in a little bit of a way, and then I'll ask you some questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like you said, the channel is Lightways. IG is _Lightways. And it's basically a spiritual tutorial channel for people that have gone through a spiritual awakening. A lot of times after you've had a spiritual awakening, you kind of feel like the odd man out. There's not a lot of people to turn to. There's not a lot of people that understand what you're going through because there are so many people that are still asleep in the matrix, as they say. So it's nice to put together a channel where people can kind of go and have their spiritual awakening questions answered.
Yeah, definitely. I can relate to that as well because I felt very alone when I had my awakening. That's kind of what pushed me into making these videos. I know I want to get into the topic of Moldavite in a second, but before that, I have a question that might lead you into that. I'm not sure exactly, but this might be prior to it. But I'm always interested to find out like how people had their spiritual awakening. So like, could you tell me maybe a specific experience that you remember, like a collection, like where you're like, this is the moment that sparked my spiritual awakening, or like how it came about? Because it's kind of random, and I think yours happened a long time ago, a lot longer than I've been awake. So just curious, like what happened.
Yeah, absolutely. So I had my spiritual awakening after the economic crash of 2009. I had a big mortgage company. I was a mortgage broker, making a lot of money and all of that. And my identity was tied to the money that I was making. That was my identity. And I had tied it to that. And then so when the market crashed and banks stopped lending and I lost everything, lost the company, houses, all of that stuff, I lost my identity. And I had to start from scratch. And the religious teachings that I was raised with, they just weren't giving me the answers. It was, do the right thing when the wrong thing is happening to you. And if you pass this cosmic test, if you're good enough, then in the 11th hour, you'll be delivered and all of this stuff. And that just was not happening at all. I was just being taught to just, be a good boy and have faith and things will magically turn around. And that's just not the answer. The turning point was I was in church one day, and I remember the pastor say, "Dear Lord, we are these lowly cave dwellers. We're not even worthy of your love. We're not even worthy of even being in your presence." And at that moment, my soul was repulsed. I knew that it was not true. I knew that was not the way the universe works. God, love, whatever you want to call it, this is not correct. Walked out of church that day and left Christianity behind after 25 years and searched for a new path. The interesting thing was about that time, The Secret had come out. And of course, that movie introduced a lot of people to the spiritual side of things. But the interesting thing about that movie was there was a part where Rhonda Byrne was explaining where her sister gave her a book after her father died. And her sister said, "This book will change your life." And that's what she made The Secret off of. And I said, well, why don't I just go to the source? So I went and got the book that Rhonda Byrne made The Secret off of, which is The Science of Being Rich by Wallace D. Wattles. Now, this was the first time that I had ever heard the concept of unity. So that book teaches that there is an original, intelligent, conscious source that runs through everything, that is all things, that is also you, that you are also a part of. And so this concept of unity, this was the first time that, it just really struck me. And I started employing the methodologies in this book, and all of a sudden things were happening, because it was teaching that the things that you want, they're not something outside of you. They're not dualistic. They're not something separate from you. They're just another piece of you that you have to call home, basically, to yourself to experience. And this was revolutionary for me. Now, I had a mortgage company making what most vice presidents would make a full year. I was making that a month, to having nothing. I ended up, after I lost everything, taking a work at home customer service job for Barnes and Noble for $8 an hour. After getting the science of getting rich and started employing those methodologies, I landed a job for $100,000 a year in September of '09.
Oh, wow.
And that's not to brag with numbers or anything like that, but that's just to say you can literally create anything you want when you just take the action to do it, and you align with that goal, and you throw out deserve and reward and condemnation and damnation and duality, and you just be what it is you want to experience. And I never looked back from there. And my soul has never been freer or more empowered.
Yeah, I can definitely, that was awesome, by the way, but
Thank you.
I can definitely relate to some of the religious teachings almost making you feel bad about yourself, or like you're not worthy. But then when I kind of took a step back and realized, the highest form of consciousness would probably not be like acting out of the ego so much as they portray God to act. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So, I was never really aware of any of these things about the ego before, but I knew it doesn't really feel right. I'm just kind of doing this so I fit in, so I don't, upset people in my family or friends. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yep. But when it just doesn't feel right, you can't. I don't feel like you could fake it. You just kind of, you kind of have to realize that we're all here from something insane, but it's not something that's going to banish you to hell forever. I don't think, personally, at least.
Exactly. and to kind of piggyback off of what you said, is like, once you get into spirituality and you become aware of the ego, the 3D ego aspects of, jealousy and anger and fear and scarcity and all of that, you see how egoic man transcribes all of these lower vibrational 3D ego aspects to the highest consciousness that there is, right? Like, look at the jealousy. Give me credit. You better give me credit. Give me all the glory. Give me all the glory. I'm not going to give you anything good. I mean, that's a 5-year-old child. God is not like that. It only takes a little bit of spirituality to get out of that 3D ego and understand that man has attributed its 3D ego to the highest, which is not true. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. And sadly, a lot of what I believe, if Jesus was a real person, then I feel like he was teaching, about meditation and similar topics, but they kind of changed it up a bit. And
they flipped the script.
Because he was speaking to mostly Jews of his time, and people make it out as if he was speaking to like people in churches now. Like it's a way different time period. So I feel like you have to take some things as metaphors in the Bible and things like that. Like you can learn things from it, but you don't necessarily have to think, oh, this is literal.
Right. Exactly. The thing about it is, if we do the research, Jesus was actually against like organized religion. He was against the Pharisees. He was against all of the old restrictions. Like he was always getting in trouble for, working on the Sabbath day, and even he says, greater things than these shall you do. The kingdom of heaven is inside of us. He was even saying these things, but, it got twisted around in the sauce there.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, let's shift over to some Moldavite for a second. I'm just going to ask you basically, what are some of your most profound Moldavite experiences? And I know you've told me something happened, so just basically share that with me. I know my channel would definitely
Yeah,
appreciate it.
yeah, absolutely, man. So this was Christmas of 2018. Um, I didn't know anything about Moldavite. I had gone to the Midwest to visit my mom for Christmas. And on that trip, I took 4 of my crystals with me. And Christmas Eve night, I had this dream of my father that had passed away 20 years ago. Now, over the past 20 years, I may have had maybe 5 dreams total of my dad. And in this dream, he was at the head of this spaceship, right? So he's standing in front of this big window on this spaceship. He's wearing this white robe and he's looking out into the entire galaxy. And there are these 2 beings on either side of him, also dressed in white robes, and their faces were just pure white light. And in the dream, I take my hand up, and in the hand, I had 5 crystals. 4 crystals were the crystals that I took with me, and there was 1 unknown crystal. So my dad takes the crystal and he looks at it and, kind of nods his head, and then he kind of approves it and puts it back in my hand and gives me this nod of approval. And that was the dream. The next morning, Christmas Day, I've got this big present, and my mom is a little bit of a jokester. She likes to take small presents and put them in huge boxes. And then you unwrap that, and inside there's another wrapped box. And but anyway, that was the piece of Moldavite. Now, I had never gotten a crystal for Christmas or my birthday. I had never told. I didn't know what Moldavite was, so I didn't tell her I wanted Moldavite for Christmas. And it was an interesting thing. Now, when I first held it, it kind of gave me this discombobulating, seasick kind of feeling a little bit, and there was a little bit of a buzz in the palm of my hand, almost like a little insect was crawling or something.
Yeah.
And I'd never felt anything like that. It was really weird. And I remembered this dream, which I now know was a visitation, because this was just one of those strong, vivid, lucid, palpable dreams. And all of a sudden the light bulb went off, and I'm like, let me look up the characteristics of Moldavite. And, aside from, connecting you to the astral plane, and obviously from the whole galactic thing, because it came from a meteorite, it also says that it's a conduit to the other side of the veil, the spirit world. And that's when I was like, wow, right? And it just kind of hit me that this Moldavite was used, or was maybe a gateway for my deceased father to come in and visit me. So that night, I have another dream, and this time it was my uncle. Now, my uncle had committed suicide 2 years prior to this. And in this dream, he had 2 bowls. He was putting water in one bowl and kibbles in another bowl, and out runs my cat that I had had for 9 years, that I had to put to sleep in May of 18 because he got cancer. And in the dream, my uncle was like, I'm here, I'm good, and I'm taking care of Jackson for you. That was my cat's name. So I had 2 visitations inside of, 24 hours of getting this Moldavite. And the next morning, just the gravity of what I experienced really hit me, because this was telling me that consciousness doesn't need a physical brain, a physical body to continue to exist. My father, my uncle, my cat, they were all, exhibiting decision making, free will, sentience, consciousness. And, when the gravity of your own infinite nature hits you, it's like, wow, this changes everything. On top of that, now, my uncle, committed suicide. And so those old school religions will tell you, well, if you commit suicide, you're damned for all of eternity and all of that. And I'm like, well, no, he was he was perfect. He was perfectly fine. So it also lets me know that when you throw out the damnation and the condemnation and all of that, it's just you are eternal because you're your consciousness. You don't need to be saved. There's nothing to be saved from. You can't not be eternal even if you didn't want to be, because your consciousness, which is energy, and energy cannot be destroyed. It can only transfer. So there's nothing to be saved from. You are going to live forever regardless, basically. And so, I was kind of hit with this information, like, what do I do with this? Why was I chosen to have this information? And then I was like, how can I kind of spread this and help other people to, one, not live in fear, and two, live in freedom and lose the fear and the damnation and all of that, and learn how to live with power and freedom and understand your own eternal nature. And that's where the inspiration for Lightways came from. It took me about another 10 months or so to kind of do some introspection and some self-work and all of that, and made my first video in October of 19, 2 weeks away from the 1-year anniversary for Lightways. But yeah, it's been amazing just kind of spreading this message and then getting the feedback of people seeing that, hey, yeah, what you're saying is right, and I do feel more free and empowered.
Yeah, that's a really awesome story, because Moldavite, that's just insane. Like how your dad had like the crystal in the dream or whatever, and then you end up getting that. Like, I don't know, that's just that is pretty wild to me.
Yeah, that blew my
But
mind that he was able to give me real world information that I couldn't have known. So that's
yeah,
how I know that it's it's not a dream, like we go on forever.
yeah, and I mean, Moldavite is the only crystal, for me personally at least, that I've been able to literally like feel it like intensely without like, I don't know, some crystals you can kind of feel, but I feel like Moldavite you can really feel it, especially when I first got it. I was just like, that feeling in your hand definitely is
Yeah,
something that happened. And when I give it to random people, they say the same thing, and it's not something where they're like even close to believing in it.
right.
So, that thing
Sometimes
is,
I'll meditate and I'll like have it on my head when I meditate, and because I envision like energy
oh
in,
yeah, yeah.
and you can just feel your head just buzzing. It's a powerful.
Yeah, if you put it on your forehead, I've done that.
Yeah,
My third eye will be like throbbing,
exactly.
um, and Moldavite is supposed to be like from out of this world anyway, so that would make sense why it's like connected to the spirit world, because we don't even technically know where it came from, because it's from like a meteorite, so that could have come from like anywhere, and
Anywhere.
then we're kind of like a little bit of a piece of that connection. Like, I don't know, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it
Um,
is. I love
that's what's so
Moldavite.
amazing about it. Um, let's see here. I've got another question. Basically about awakening, I guess, just your experience. Did you ever, especially when you first went through an awakening and like made some lifestyle changes, did you have like difficulty being judged by, maybe other people, or at least thinking that in your own head, or like difficulty letting go of your old identity, especially like you wanting to hold on to it, or things like that?
All of the above. Yeah. So as far as the actual people, yeah, those are going to be, the people that were still in the religious thing and the duality, and, what you're doing is blasphemous, and, you're going to go to hell, and all of this stuff. And, I just had to make new friends, basically, because I can't have that type of limited fear-based nonsense in my life. But as far as what was going through my head at the time, especially 25 years in Christianity, you are worried about divine retribution, right? You're worried about, okay, well, if the Bible says false idols and all of this, and what if I, piss off God and I'm going to get cancer, or I'm going to lose my job, or, whatever. So you start getting all of this fear of divine retribution from all the years of indoctrination, fear-based indoctrination. And not only did that not happen in any way, shape, or form, but my life really, really took off. And, because this is the thing, there's no parent that doesn't want their offspring to be great and grow up and be even better than they ever were. So a lot of the stuff that side of things religion tries to say just makes no sense. Any parent can ask themselves the same question, like, how great do you want your child to be? Do you want your child to have the things that you never had? And a lot of this stuff, all you have to do is use critical thinking. But so my life took off when I really let go of the concept of divine retribution, and you go down this road of introspection and really learning what you truly are. I mean, we're all fractals of God. There's no way we can't be. There's no situation where the offspring is not the same as the parent. Physically, that doesn't make any sense, right? So we all have the same ability to create our world exactly the same as, the Creator creates the entire universe. And when you come to that realization, you actually are happy because you're living the life that you want to live.
Yeah, that's really true. Sorry, I just got distracted by my dog barking for just a second there. But I think I'm gonna ask you another question, but I can definitely agree, because it's like they say you're made in the image of God, and Jesus would. I think there's some quote from him that says like the same power, or like Jesus Christ is within you, or like something like that. You all are gods, or something like that. Where he was basically trying to tell people that we all have this divine power. For some reason, they made us think that we have to look to him to save us when he wanted us to save ourselves. It became like, instead of becoming a religion of like transforming, it's just like looking to something else to save you, basically, or feeling like you have no power, and that can always make it worse for people, especially when people are like depressed or like feel bad about themselves. Like, I feel like telling people that they need to turn to God sometimes makes them feel worse, because they don't know what they're doing wrong. They feel like for some reason they're not good enough. So
exactly,
it's
meant to keep them codependent, disempowered, and in fear. And the quote you're talking about is Jesus said, "Is it not written, ye are gods?"
Yeah.
But the church doesn't focus on that part.
Yeah. I was never taught about that until I started looking into reasons it's not necessarily true.
The Bible is an interesting thing, because Emperor Constantine in the year 352 AD, our Western Bible comes from his edition he left out 43 books, and the books that he did leave in didn't really fit his monotheistic views and having people under control. So he heavily edited the books that he did leave in the Bible so that it was more of a hierarchy, codependent, fear-based type of thing. And people dedicate their entire lives to it, and it's not even the whole thing.
I know.
I don't want to piss off your religious viewers, man, but there's a lot to it, man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I have too many, honestly.
Okay. I don't think I do either.
But like, except for like whenever my family eventually watches it, but they don't watch my channel right now, so it's fine. But I don't think they aren't really like mad about that. I guess they kind of see where I'm coming from, and I kind of see where they're coming from. Like they feel like they have a personal relationship with God, like they're in love with God. Maybe they're just feeling that divine connection in like a different way, like, because they're not necessarily preaching on to me like, oh, you're going to go to hell if you don't. Like, some Christians aren't all like that, but like some are. Like, there's a wide range of different contradictions within the religion, like with all different types of it, Protestant, Catholic, all of that, which goes way back to the Protestant Reformation, and like somewhat like politics and control. And I don't know, it just kind of gets on my nerves that people like base their whole life on it and think that someone's not a good person because they're not in this group with them. Like that's the only thing that kind of really annoys me about it. But I honestly try and avoid really even speaking my mind on it because I know that no one's going to change their mind. Like certain people are not going to change their mind. It doesn't really matter. That's just how it
Yeah,
is.
that's because it's part of their identity. Once it's part of
Yeah.
their identity, then the ego jumps in to protect the identity, puts the ego in survival mode, which is fight or flight. And then it's not about hearing anything, it's about closing the ears and just making sure that you're right so that your identity is protected. So I don't even bother with it.
Yeah, it's just kind of annoying, especially when you're my age, because I don't know, it's like no one's gonna listen to me, and I'm in the South too, so like basically everybody is like Christians,
Right, yeah.
and like if you ever bring up the point that there's 4,200 other religions and there's other countries and things like that, or like are those people gonna die? And I don't know, there's just so much about it.
Yeah, I
Uh,
was raised in Kentucky, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
yeah. Um, I guess I would ask you, have you found that when you're less worried about the external result of what you're doing and doing it more so because it's something that's important to you and like feel like I guess feeling like you're passionate about it, does it feel like the external results have kind of reflected back that mirror of success like when you're doing something you're passionate about? Because like that's how I feel. Just kind of curious on your perspective on that, like with YouTube and everything.
Yeah, 100%, man. Because when you are passionate about something and you're doing it from your heart, it doesn't feel like work. And when it doesn't feel like work and you come across challenges or stumbling blocks or roadblocks, it doesn't feel like work to get past that. It just feels like something that you love to do regardless. And it may not even seem like a roadblock because you love doing it anyway. A lot of people that are doing stuff that they don't really want to do or they're not super passionate about, as soon as a roadblock pops up, that kind of stops them because they're not in love with it enough to push through it. And so I noticed this incredible momentum with making these YouTube channels, making the YouTube videos, where, I mean, editing per video is, I don't know, 10 hours, 12 hours, something like that.
Yeah.
And then you got to promote the videos and do all of this. So running a YouTube channel is literally full time, 35, 40 hours for me. And I also have my regular business that, pays my bills. So,
Right.
I'm doing, 65, maybe 70 hours worth of work per week between YouTube and my regular business. But I'm looking at my other business as a way to allow me to build the channel. So I'm looking at my other business as a passion as well because it's feeding my real passion. You
Yes.
know, so it's a nice momentum when you are in love with what you do, for sure.
Yeah, that's definitely a good way to look at it because sometimes you have to do certain things that might not be that you might not be that passionate about, but it gets you to a point where you can follow your passion and helps you build the channel. So I can
Absolutely.
definitely relate to that. Um, and YouTube for sure does take up a lot of time. Like I didn't even realize when I first started, like how much you have to, like maybe the first few videos it's all right, but like you gotta edit, you gotta come up with ideas every
Yeah.
week. You gotta consistently put out videos, try and promote those, and
Yeah.
I can only imagine running a business along with my channel right now. Like I don't think I would be able to do that personally, but I mean, I do go to school. That's about it. But I mean, that can be annoying sometimes too because I'm not passionate about school. That's for sure. Um, and I guess the last question will be, I guess I don't know if you've answered this in any way in this video, but I just had it written down. But how have you been able to change some of your limiting beliefs about yourself in the past? Maybe like any ways that you were able to become aware of them, or let go of that old identity you had, or like, because you seem to be like on top of it and working hard. Like, I don't know if you were always like that, or if you know, felt like you were not on the right path at one point.
Yeah, I would say before, I had always been a bit of an entrepreneur and not really the 9 to 5 type of guy. So, I was into mortgages before, and my regular business is still related to mortgages,
Yeah.
but it's, I always worked hard for that, but it wasn't a passion. This was the YouTube thing is definitely a passion because of the feedback that I get of people telling me like literally how I changed their life. My videos are helping them get through all kinds of stuff that they have going on in their lives. Um, I provided the answers for them that for some reason they say they can't find on other channels and stuff like that. And when I get that kind of feedback, it's like, wow, I'm making a difference. I'm, especially now with all the craziness in the world, it feels really good to be able to make a positive
Yeah.
difference in the world. And so I think that that new identity of being a little bit of a spiritual guide started to take over more than like the corporate finance guy, when I really started getting the feedback. And of course the channel's really grown fast and all of that. And yeah, that feedback of helping people is what really kind of changed my perceived self-identity of being a spiritual guide.
Yeah, I can definitely relate, because when I first started making videos, that was the whole reason I felt so alone and so like unable to talk to people in my life about any of these topics. I feel like I needed an outlet to vent my thoughts almost at first,
Yeah.
and then along with that, I thought, I could probably help some people, just if they're my age, maybe they, because there's not many people talking about these topics that are my age on YouTube. So I was just like, I don't have to necessarily act like I know everything and I'm right about it, but I could just be doing it just to document my experience over time and grow, because eventually, as I keep making videos for years to come, I'll get better, understanding of all these topics and experiencing my awakening, and kind of have like video footage of all that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that
I
was
think
kind
it's
of my
really,
thinking. Like, I might not be Joe Dispenza, but the stuff that I've overcome it through spirituality. And I know that there has to be some people out there that also need to know how to at least overcome my level of what I've had to overcome. And I can show them how to do it, how I did it spiritually, even if I'm not like, Joe
yeah, that's
Dispenza or Michael Bernard Beckwith or one of these guys.
yeah, exactly. I feel like that's what holds so many people back from actually doing it, is because they feel like they're not qualified enough, or people are going to judge them because they said one thing a little bit off, or the statistics are slightly off, or
Right.
something. Kind of got to let go of that like constant worry about what people are going to think. And but the comments from other people definitely does help you keep going, because it is inspiring to know that you are inspiring someone else. Like, I'm playing the role of what those YouTubers played for me at one point in my life when I was down and had no
Yeah.
idea what I was going to do, and came across a video that changed my life. Like,
Yeah.
maybe one person at least would see one of my videos, and at least spark an idea within them that could change their life, or lead them to another video or another channel. Like, that's all part of it. So
Exactly.
it's just powerful how much of an impact you can have at this time. Like, back in the day, we wouldn't be able to even be making this little video right here talking about these topics, and
Yeah.
being able to stream now, things like that. Like, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah. And it's amazing being able to be that person that you would have needed yourself back when you were going through your spiritual awakening. You're able to be that for somebody else, you know?
That's awesome. Um, Yeah, so I guess that'll do it. We've had a pretty long video, I think. I mean, some pretty good content. Uh, I guess I'll just kind of let you give some final thoughts, promote anything that you would like to promote. Take the floor.
Yeah, just check out the channel. It's Lightways on YouTube. Everything and anything related to a spiritual awakening. So we've got 5D consciousness moving from 3D to 5D. If you're having trouble in the purging process of the Great Awakening, we got some pointers on how to get through all of that stuff. If you're going through the dark night of the soul, we've got videos on that. If you're having trouble with 3D ego, we have videos on that. I tried to make videos on everything that I was going through when I was having a spiritual awakening, and everything that I had questions on, I've tried to make a video about. So if you've had a spiritual awakening, I think we got some pretty good resources for you.
Yeah, seriously, guys, if you haven't already been subscribed to this channel, I feel like some of my viewers probably are like excited to see us because they might be subscribed to both channels, the rare few. But let me know in the comments if you're one of those people. But seriously, go check out his channel. Like, he's actually taught me a lot, and I feel like I can learn a lot from him because he's been on this journey longer than me, and a lot of you guys will probably take a lot of good things out of his videos.
Thank you, brother.
So, I guess that's pretty much it. Spread love, everybody. I hope you realize you're not the only one going through a spiritual awakening. I know it can feel lonely at times, but there are other people out there who probably think the way you do, and you just got to find them.
Yeah, and we're here for you.